Deep in the heart of Willow Creek Valley sat the peaceful village of Tixville, famous throughout the land for its antique clock tower, whose chimes were said to keep perfect time with the stars themselves. And right next door to the clock tower was the house where Ellie lived with her parents and pet cat, Minty. Now, Ellie was no ordinary 9-year-old. She had a head full of stories, a heart full of kindness, and pockets full of treasures, like shiny pebbles, colourful leaves, and feathers she found on her adventures. And every Saturday morning, Ellie would climb the creaky stairs to her grandfather's attic to look through his collection of old books, maps, and trinkets, which he kept neatly organised in glass cabinets. It was during one of these visits that Ellie stumbled upon a curious little nook tucked away behind a tapestry. It was filled with all sorts of peculiar gadgets, like goggles with tiny propellers attached to them and a hat with a self-sharpening built-in pencil. But what caught Ellie's eye was a velvet pouch hanging from a hook on the wall. Inside lay an old pocket watch with an ornate silver chain. "Wow, Grandpa!" Ellie exclaimed. "Where did this come from?" Her grandpa, who was tinkering with a model airship nearby, looked up with a twinkle in his eye. "Ah, that old thing. It's just a broken clock," he said dismissively, trying to hide a smile. But Ellie could tell there was more to the story. "A broken clock," she repeated, taking the watch outside to examine it closer. Suddenly, as she held the watch in her hand, a loud chime echoed through the valley, and the hands on the watch froze in place. Ellie gasped. What had she done? At first, Ellie thought the clock had magically stopped time. Then she realized something incredible. While the hands on the watch remained frozen, the grass beneath her feet continued to sway in the wind, and the clouds drifted lazily overhead. She could hear birds singing, leaves rustling, and even distant farm animals. But she couldn't see or hear anyone else. People had literally turned to stone. For a moment, Ellie felt scared. But then a big smile spread across her face. No one could tell her to stop playing or go inside. She could stay out here forever, with the freedom and power to do whatever she wanted. Ellie played until the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of orange, pink, and purple. As Ellie walked home, she noticed something strange. Her house seemed unusually dark. Peeking through the window, she saw her family sitting at the dinner table with their food untouched. Time had stopped for them too. Ellie considered walking in and joining them. But then she remembered the golden rule her grandpa had taught her. "Never meddle with the natural order of things," she whispered. And so Ellie went back to her room, put on her pajamas, and climbed into bed, falling asleep with a big smile on her face. The next morning, Ellie woke up feeling excited and a little mischievous. This was going to be an amazing day. She raced downstairs and poured herself a bowl of cereal. But then she noticed something. The milk in her bowl was frozen solid. Ellie had never seen anything like it before. Puzzled, she decided to check on her pet cat, Minty. Now, Minty was usually curled up on the sofa, but when Ellie approached the sofa, she saw that Minty had turned to stone, frozen in mid-meow. Ellie rushed to the window and looked out. To her surprise, the entire village was still frozen. Had the clock stopped time overnight? At first, everything seemed normal. Birds tweeted cheerfully, flowers bloomed, and butterflies fluttered among the trees. But soon strange things began to happen. A butterfly landed on Ellie's nose and stayed there, even after she sneezed. The milk in her bowl didn't spill when she knocked it over, and when Ellie tried to call out to her family, her voice echoed strangely. Ellie realized that while the clock had frozen time, it hadn't stopped it. The world kept spinning, but without anyone to notice or care, things began to unravel. If no one was around to plant seeds, they wouldn't sprout. If no one was there to appreciate the flowers, they wouldn't bloom. And if no one appreciated the delicious desserts her mom baked, well, they might get burnt. Suddenly, Ellie's mom appeared in the doorway. "Is everything all right, honey? I couldn't help but notice you talking to yourself." Ellie panicked. How could her mom be here? But everyone else was still frozen. Maybe time wasn't completely stopped. Maybe it was just really, really slow. "Oh, I was just practicing my lines for the school play," Ellie stammered. "It's a historical drama about the Great Flood. Would you like to watch sometime?" Her mum smiled and ruffled Ellie's hair. "Of course, dear. You know your grandpa used to love watching you in your plays. He always said you had the heart of an actress." As her mum left the room, Ellie couldn't help but think of her grandfather again. Where was he now? Hadn't he been up here with her yesterday? Shaking off these strange thoughts, Ellie went back to the attic. But when she opened the door, she gasped in surprise. All of the items in her grandpa's collection were gone. His tools, his gadgets, even his chair. And scrunched up in the corner was the velvet pouch containing the mysterious pocket watch. "Grandpa," Ellie whispered, hoping against hope that he was here somewhere. Suddenly, the pocket watch began to chirp loudly. Startled, Ellie dropped the pouch. The watch split open, and a tiny winged creature emerged. "Who are you?" Ellie asked, backing away slowly. "I am Tick-Tock, guardian of time," the little creature replied in a squeaky voice. "And you have awakened me from my slumber within the clockwork heart." Tick-Tock explained that the watch was no ordinary clock. It was a magical clockwork heart, capable of freezing time, but its power was waning, and it needed to be recharged by being wound up every 24 hours. Otherwise, its magic would disappear forever. Ellie learned that her grandfather had discovered the watch long ago and kept it safe, winding it up every day to preserve its magic. But he had passed away recently, and the last person to wind up the clockwork heart was Ellie. Now that Ellie knew the truth about the watch, she had a decision to make. Should she keep winding it and risk disrupting the balance of time? Or should she let its magic fade away? Days turned into weeks, and Ellie struggled with her decision. On one hand, the watch gave her incredible powers and the chance to do whatever she wanted. On the other hand, she knew that meddling with time could have dangerous consequences. Then one day, disaster struck. As Ellie was winding the pocket watch, she heard a loud crack. Looking up, she saw that the bridge near her house had collapsed. The river was rising, threatening to overflow its banks and flood Ticksville. Without thinking, Ellie reached for the watch and wound it up tightly. Suddenly, everyone in the village froze, except Ellie and Tick-Tock, who hovered anxiously beside her. Ellie knew exactly what she had to do. With Tick-Tock perched on her shoulder, Ellie dashed to the village square. Using her powers, she rewound time until the bridge was whole and the river was calm. She helped people unfreeze, one by one, making sure no one noticed the disruption. When the villagers saw the flooding river, they sprang into action. Together, they rebuilt the bridge and reinforced the riverbank. Soon, life in Ticksville returned to normal, and Ellie, who had become a hero of the town, slipped the pocket watch back into her grandpa's old tool belt, winding it gently to keep its magic alive. She knew that sometimes life got messy, people made mistakes, and rivers flooded. But those were all part of the beautiful, imperfect world she lived in. And thanks to her grandfather's wisdom and the lessons she'd learned, she was ready to face whatever came next.